In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to set up the AI drummer in Logic Pro. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how you can get the most customization out of the AI drummer as possible. And before I do anything else, I need to make sure that I'm saving this as something that I'm going to remember. And down here where it says organize my project as a package or a folder, I'm always going to select folder, and I'm always going to make sure that I have audio files checked here. Then I'm going to click save. We can see it updated the name here, so it should be on my desktop now as a folder. Perfect. Okay. So now that we've saved our session file successfully, we are ready to add our AI drummer. And the quickest way to do that is actually a shortcut, Option Command U. Or you can just go to Track, New Drummer Track, and it adds our AI drummer. You can add section by section here, but we really want to make a full length of a song here. So what we need to do first is to tell Logic the structure of our song, or in other words, set up the arrangement of our song so that the AI drummer knows where to put the fills and all that good stuff, and it'll actually follow along. So the quickest way to do that is to click on this little icon here. And then you'll see where it says arrangement. I'm going to go ahead and click on that little plus sign, and you can see that it added my intro. However, I do want to make this shorter, so I am going to cut it to about half the length. There we go. And at the end of the intro, I'm going to add another section. And I'm going to add another section. But let's say maybe I wanted to add a pre-chorus. Let's say we want to make it 4 measures long. And we'll rename this pre-chorus. Okay, now I'm going to add the chorus after that, and then I'm just going to finish the process of setting up my arrangement. Now that we have set up our arrangement here, I'm going to go ahead and add a drummer again, and remember that shortcut was Option Command U. And you can see here that it followed the structure of our song that we laid out, which is exactly what we wanted it to do. So if you look over to the left, you'll see where you can actually change the drummer that's playing. You can also change the genre. For example, we've got R&B here. There's not a lot of selections for that. There is a lot for like alternative and rock. But for the sake of this tutorial, let's just go with rock and retro rock. Okay, so now we can see it changed over here. So let's take a listen to what it gave us so far. Okay, so that's not bad, but for the sake of this tutorial, I want to speed it up. So I'm going to adjust the tempo here and bring it up to about 170. I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger. So over to the left side, you'll see we have some presets. You'll see that because I have all of these highlighted, it is changing all of them. But you could, in theory, only highlight one of them and change the style for that section, and then change the style for that section, change the style for that section. But that's not going to be very cohesive. So I like to at least start off with them on like the same preset. Let's go with just 3 rings. Okay, let's hear how this sounds. Not bad, but those fills were pretty intense. Let's go to section 1. The fill is going to be at the end here. And let's just take that down a notch. That's not bad. A little more simple and more cohesive, right? Okay, that's pretty crazy. If we weren't at such a high tempo, it wouldn't sound so bad. But let's drop those down, maybe even more. Let's listen to the fills of the pre-chorus. Pretty crazy. Let's take it down a notch. Better. Let's hear the last measure of this one. Pretty crazy. Let's take it down. Okay, that's better. Ooh, a little crazy. Make sure we have that one highlighted. Okay. Okay, so I am just going to go ahead and adjust the fills for the rest of the song. So now that I have finished making the fills sound how I want them to sound, I'm going to play around with the dynamics and the complexity of the AI drummer to give it some variation. In theory, the intro is probably not going to be as loud as the rest of the song. You can see over here, the loudness and complexity is the same throughout the entire song, and we really kind of want that to not be the case, right? We want some variation. On the intro, I'm gonna simplify it a little bit, make it a little less loud, and then in my verse, I'm gonna simplify it a little bit, maybe a little more loud. My pre-chorus is getting a little more complex, a little louder, and my chorus, let's say, is loud, but I want the first one maybe a little more simpler. Then it's gonna get a little quieter, a little more simpler again in this verse. Then this pre-chorus, maybe a little more loud and complex. And then I'm just gonna finish out the rest of the song. So now we've got some variation. Then if you look over in this section over here, you'll see the instruments that are highlighted are the ones that are actually being played. So if you were to change this preset to Stonehenge, for example, you can see it changed what was actually playing. And you can also click on these instruments as well to change which instrument is playing. But let's switch back to 3 rings to keep it cohesive. And if you look to the bottom right where it says kick and snare, you can actually change the groove that the drummer plays. So maybe on the choruses, let's say, we want to change the groove to like 3 or 4. And let's say that maybe the bridge plays in halftime. I don't know, maybe double time? Oh, no. No. We'll say 6. So now I'm actually going to show you how you can change the drum set or the drum kit that the drummer is playing. So let's say we wanted to change it to 4 on the floor. Okay, what about smash? Okay, that's pretty cool. But what if I wanted like this beat but an electronic drum set? Then you would just go down here, click where it says drum kit, and it'll bring up your other options. And we're gonna select electronic drum kit. You'll notice that there are a ton more options with the electronic drum kit. That's actually a really cool beat. I like that, but let's play around with some others. let's say that you like this beat, but you don't really like something about it. Like maybe you just don't like the claps or the snare or the hi-hat. You can actually change each individual sound of the drum kit. So if you click this little drop-down menu here, you'll see which instruments are being played, and you can click on it and it'll bring up that sound. And if you look over to your left, you will see that you can replace this snare sound with any of the other snares on there. So let's go ahead and listen and try to find one that we like better than this one. Okay, so that to me sounds more like a snare. So let's say that you're happy with your drums now and you still want to like add some effects and maybe do some mixing. At this stage, I like to convert my AI drums to a MIDI region. I like to do this so that way I can make a separate track for each individual sound of my drum kit, then I can add effects to those tracks and mix them individually. So I'm going to delete these stragglers, and let's see if there's any below. Nope, looks like we're good. Wait, there is a little straggler here. Let's delete that. Okay, so it looks like our whole beat here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different sounds. So what I like to do is I like to make 8 different tracks. The quickest way to do that would be to right click and then go to new track with duplicate settings. And I'm going to highlight all of these and I'm going to hold down Option and drag it down to my next track. So I'm going to do that 8 times until I have a track for every sound on here. I am going to mute them because I definitely don't need 8 tracks of the same thing playing at once. That would just be really bad for our ears and our speakers. So I like to start with the kick drum. I just like to go from the bottom to the top. So what we're going to do is rename this track Kick. And we're going to delete everything that is not the kick drum. So everything above it. Okay, so now we have our kick track. And we're going to unmute this one here. The next one up looks like it is the snare. So we are going to delete all of the kick drums and we're going to delete everything else that is not the snare, so everything above it. And now we can rename this Snare 1. Now our next track, we're going to unmute it. Let's see what's next. After Snare 1, we got Snare 2. So let's delete our kick drum and our Snare 1. And then we're going to also delete everything above Snare 2. We're going to rename this Snare 2. Then we're going to go here, unmute. We'll see what the next one is. Looks like hi-hat. So we're going to delete everything below hi-hat and everything above. We're going to rename this. We're going to unmute. Oh, it looks like this is a straggler. We don't have anything assigned to that note, so we're going to erase those. And our next one is hi-hat 2, so we're going to erase everything below hi-hat 2 and everything above hi-hat 2. Okay, we're going to rename this. And then I am going to just repeat this process until I have made a track for each individual sound of my drum kit so I can add effects and mix them individually. Okay, so now we have our whole set of drums, and this was the extra from that straggler that I didn't notice, so I'm going to delete that. Now, what I like to do, this is just totally personal preference. I can see that there are notes being played on all of these sections, so I'm going to leave that, but on sections that don't have anything playing, I'm going to erase. So for example, if I bring up this verse on the snare too, I don't see any notes, so I'm going to delete that section. Same with the intro. And then just repeat this process until you have went through everything and deleted any sections that don't have any notes. And another little thing I like to do, again, this is totally personal preference, but I like to highlight them, go to name and color, and change the color of my drums to yellow. There's one more little thing that I like to do to keep things organized and also to free up some processing power. I'm going to go through and actually delete all of the tracks that aren't being used. As you'll see, it is kind of a tedious task to get done, but I think it's totally worth it to keep everything organized and to free up some space. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to go through and actually delete all of these effects so I can start from scratch. Now that I've cleaned up all of the tracks, I can start adding effects to each one individually.